Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And today we have our own occupation on the brain, which, while it may be only interesting to a very narrow sliver of people, it may be intensely interesting. And I think we have something to say about it because this is what we do all day. So I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. And I'm here with my relatively new, I don't know how many weeks it's been now, Lori, or months, maybe we're measuring months, colleague Lori, who joined us after being a product manager at MongoDB and working at several other successful New York tech companies. And so, Lori, I'll turn it over to you to share your perspective on things and the question, and we'll get into it.
Awesome. And to answer your question, it's been 2 months already, which is wild. Time has flown, but I am indeed new. And so I was really excited when we brought up this idea of talking about what it would take as a VC to be successful, to be a successful investor in startups. And I'm starting to get a taste of that from working with you all and kind of jumping right into the role. But I think everybody is excited to know what you think about that.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to caveat and say, we don't know yet. Like, we're 9.5 years in at Bloomberg Beta. We're really proud of the caliber of companies we've invested in and our relationships with many founders, but we've messed up more things than I can count. And being successful in VC takes a very long time. And so I would say we're just now, I used to say at the beginning, ask me in 5 or 10 years. Now I'm like, well, we can start to give you an answer. It looks like Fund 1 is performing really well. Fund 2 and 3 seem really good too, but who knows, a little early. Fund 4, we just are, blah, blah, blah. So I'd say take it all with a boulder of salt. That's it. The way I think about VC is you are making a two-sided market between founders and LPs. And first of all, a firm has to decide, in any two-sided market, you got to focus on prioritizing one or the other. I used to be in the media business, got users and advertisers. Obviously, you're always negotiating their interests, but you have to have a point of view on it. For us at Bloomberg Beta, and this is not true for every other firm, we are very clear that founders are our customers and our LP is our supplier of capital. Then the question is, okay, from the perspective of being a good investor, what do you do? And to me, there are 4 core activities that everything else in the firm supports those 4 activities. And those 4 activities are sourcing, seeing things, deciding, picking what you want to invest in, winning, earning the right once you've decided to invest or before to be on the cap table, and serving, making sure the founders are helped by you. And in our model, we put serving number 1 on the list, as you know, but I don't think that's the only model. There are lots of folks. I have a friend who's a VC, he's a very successful VC, and he says, my model for value add is I don't call you. And that's better than like 80% of VCs. And we're just talking about quiet quitting today. Quiet quit could be good for a founder as long as they show up when they need to do their pro rata or sign some documents. Definitely better than the VCs who are like, and then they sent my associate to talk to me every week. And they kept asking me to report on the fucking numbers, and I'm trying to run the business. But, there's that line, forget exactly what it is, but it's something like you can't grow the pig by weighing it every day. And it's worse because weighing it means it can't eat, so it can't grow. And so, and then, different firms have different strategies on these things, including how they think about, everything from diversity inclusion at every step along the way toward concrete, skill areas that they have as service offerings to their, to their portfolio. And so as a VC, I think you need a perspective on which of those is important to you and why, and we can go into all of them. Yeah. And then if you're building a firm, there's a whole set of choices around how you build a firm to do those things. If you're an individual, then there's a question of how you succeed within the firm and help build the firm. But it's going to be a very different question about how can I succeed as a newly hired associate at a enormous venture capital firm versus how do I succeed as an investor at Bloomberg Beta? Because in one of those places you can say yes. And in the other place, you may have to persuade the old guy that it's time to say yes. And, So that's my high level overview on it, but we can go into all of it. I'm just curious, having done this for 2 months, what does that leave out, or what questions does it leave you with, or anything like that?
No, I think you make a really great point, which is that you have to adapt to your environment. So I think for us, we can only speak to what we do at Beta. So I think that since we've started that from the beginning, we can talk about our view for it instead of trying to, expand out necessarily to what other firms are going to want. And that's something that I think is practically really helpful in this role, is understanding the people that you work with, what matters to them, how they operate, and then taking that as an opportunity to learn from them. And so that's something that I think, we can jump into, which we were just talking about how number 1 important goal at Beta is to serve founders. what do you think is one of the greatest things that we do at serving founders? Like you have to just pick one.
So first of all, I think I'm the wrong person to pick, because I think that founders need to decide. And one of the things that happens in VC is like the things that VCs talk about is like, this is the core of our value add. And I was like, yeah, I don't give a shit about that. What I really like is they have super fast Wi-Fi in their office. And so it's just important to get real about it. I'll tell you what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of is difficult moments, is the founder who calls me and they're like, I don't know what to do here. Lawsuit, accusation, growth has stopped, and when we show up in those moments in ways that are valuable, which I'm not going to pretend we always do, but we certainly try to, that makes me really proud, because those are the moments that make or break, and where outside help can both be supportive from a knowing what to do perspective, but also it's just terrifying. Like when I was a founder and we had 2 weeks of cash left, signed term sheet with a VC to lead our next round, and they broke the term sheet with 2 weeks of cash left the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. I didn't have a VC I could call and just be like, man, I don't know what to do. I had the CEO of the company. She and I called each other, and I called her because I was the one leading fundraising at that point. And I was like, holy shit. But it would have helped. It would have helped a ton. And so those are the moments that I feel the most proud of.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll often have founders, just a sense of obliviousness. Every month, somebody will say to me something like, you gave me this advice 4 years ago and I followed it. It was awesome. I'm like, I have no memory of giving you that advice. Or I followed it and it was terrible. Like, I don't care whether you follow my advice or not. I just care whether it works. So.
And I can validate, I have been in 2 such conversations with you and a founder this week. So they're happening. But I think that's a perfect segue into kind of, let's go back to the start of the process that you were talking about. And I think everyone would love to hear your most interesting takes on every step along the way. So starting with sourcing.
Yeah. So let me make a suggestion on this.
All right.
I actually think we should do separate This Is Not Advices about each of those.
All right. Okay.
So we'll make a little series out of it. I think it just starts with, like, VC is not magic. We have a business. Our business is called selling money. And we sell money to founders. Some people may want to choose that what they do is they buy money from LPs, or they sell LPs equity in their fund, or not equity, but a position in their LP vehicle or something like that. But the second you start looking at it that way, then you're like, okay, what's my strategy? How do I differentiate? What am I testing? What do I know? What do I believe is an article of faith, because it's just my principles, versus what do I need the market to tell me? And then from that, lots of things can unfold. And some of our favorite co-investors are firms that very deeply seem to see the LP as their customer. They just want to win, and they're just really good at winning. And obviously, two-sided market, you got to be good at both sides. So it's not a question of abandoning one. And, we believe that Bloomberg is very happy with the returns they've received and the nature of the relationships that the firm has been able to build with startups and learn about startups. But it's just not, and I'm very public about the fact founders are our customers. I don't get Mike calling me saying, hey, I thought I was your customer.
So. It's been the plan since the beginning. That makes perfect sense.
So let's do each of those and break it down, and whatever questions you have.
Yeah. Well, I think I do want to double click into one thing that you just said that I think people would find interesting, which is about testing the theories, right? Which we talk a lot about with founders. But I'm curious if you've seen any success stories of people testing things out in VC.
Sure. First of all, we've had some failed tests. Like, we thought we could incubate companies along with investing. Didn't work for us. It worked for others. Didn't work for us. We've had some successful tests, things like our Future Founders program, where we identify people who have yet to start venture-backed companies, but we statistically predict will do so. It allows us to build a relationship with a fresh, diverse set of founders, many of whom, by the way, are much older than people anticipate. So when I say fresh, people think I mean young, and not necessarily. So we've had some on both sides. I think YC is the single greatest experiment itself in VC that has been obviously wildly successful. YC, many steps along the way, growing the size of a YC class. And so there are lots of, Andreessen Horowitz is another experiment, which is to say, putting fees directly into and predominantly into founder service was a new, fresh strategy at the time. There's a chance it might not have worked, might not have mattered, but it seems to be great. So I think there are plenty of examples like that. I also think that we're still early and the number of experiments is still pretty small. And so like we want to see people experimenting with backing founders from a more diverse range of backgrounds. Obviously, a lot of that is already happening in the world. We want to see alternatives to the standard venture capital deal terms, you know, that kind of stuff. Now, the alternatives have to work. Just being an alternative is not good enough. Like you got to have a strategy for how being different actually works, given everybody else snaps to grid on the norm. So lots of stuff like that. But those are some of the ones that come to mind. I don't know. I'm curious what you've seen.
No, it's interesting. I feel like we do a lot of experiments on a smaller basis too. Meaning if somebody comes up with an idea, we're like, great, let's try it, right? What's the easiest, smallest way that we can run this and see if it works? And then we can implement a bigger project, which it's nice that we practice what we preach, because we tell startups this all the time, that they should always be testing their hypotheses and figuring out what they need to prove next.
I mean, in a way, like I'm not going to exaggerate the similarity, because founders of venture firms, and we sometimes invest in those firms, are founders, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we deserve, you know, cap gains treatment on our carried interest, because we don't take the same risks that founders take. We don't put all our eggs in one basket. You know, we don't, it's just not the same, but it rhymes in some ways. And so we try as much as we can to live the things, you know, if you're not practicing what you preach, you're a fraud. I don't want to be a fraud.
Very true.
All right. Well, I think we got to wrap, but anything else, Lori, before we break?
No, I think this was great. And I feel like we opened up so many other topics that we'll cover in future sessions.
Yeah. And I'll just say, normally this is not advice, because it's like, hey, you do whatever works for you. I can just share my experience. In this case, because it is the experience that has been my primary experience for 9.5 years, I feel slightly more confident. Maybe this one is advice, but you can find all the past episodes on thisisnotadvice.work. And you'll be able to find this one there too at some point. And if you prefer audio, you can go to Jam and get a little snippet of the week on jam.ai, and you can find This Is Not Advice there. Just follow this URL. So, Laura, I'm excited for the rest in the series.
Awesome.
To be continued. Thank you.